The expansion of higher education over the past 30 years has seen an increasing number of students living in Nottingham. The perceived culture is that undergraduate first-year students will live in purpose-built accommodation, in privately owned halls or in university halls. In the second year, they will live in an HMO, a house of multiple occupancy, where 2 or more people can live together who are unrelated. These HMOs are in areas like Lenton, Radford, Forest Fields, Arboretum, Dunkirk. Also in these areas are long-established residents, and this can lead to town versus gown tensions between the long-established residents and the student residents.
So Nottingham City Council are proposing a plan which basically seeks to move students from high concentration of HMOs in areas such as Lenton and Dunkirk and into purpose-built accommodation. They're doing this with the Land and Planning Policy's Local Development Plan and also something called Article 4 direction. The vote for Article 4 is happening on the 22nd of November and the consultation period for the plan ends on the 21st.
This all follows on from Nottingham City Council's decision to charge student residents and not local residents for car parking permits. 5,200 students signed a petition against these measures. However, their voice was not taken into account, and on Monday the 7th of November, the council passed their decision to charge students.
While students have been ignored throughout this consultation, the council has been listening a lot more to NAG, which is the Nottingham Action Group. They are funded by the council and are in favour of the local plan and Article 4 direction. Maya Fletcher, who is the chair of NAG, was invited to speak to us but declined. We think it's really unfair that students' voice isn't considered as valuable as those of established residents. And we want the executive councillors to listen to our perspective and consider the diversity of our student body.
The proposals haven't considered postgrads at all. The only thing that's been considered in any of these are the typical student and the way that people expect students to behave, and that really couldn't be further removed from the majority of our postgraduate community.
The council views students as being in the way, and that they don't add to community spirit, and they're loud and they're noisy and they disrupt the neighbours, and I don't think that's a very accurate portrayal at all, especially of students like myself, nursing and midwifery students, because we don't go out very much and we don't have big parties and things like that, and we're not very disruptive at all to the community, and actually it's a good help to be involved in the community area and not be completely separate away from other people. Because of the course we do, it's really good to be in the community.
Just because we don't pay council tax, it doesn't mean that we aren't as equal as all the other residents that live here. They only seem to focus on the negatives. You know, we bring a lot of value to the economy here, and we should be treated as equals.
The type of students that volunteer in the cafe are friendly students, very committed, they are hardworking, nice, polite, dedicated. If you're going to charge one, you should charge all. So I believe if you're going to charge the students for parking, I believe also residents should be charged for parking as well. The students have a major impact on the Crocus Cafe because we've been in existence for 7 years, and I believe that if we don't have the students, then the cafe won't succeed. We don't have many residents volunteering at the moment, so we've always been running off and thriving off of the volunteers, student volunteers.
We also feel that the details have not been properly considered. How Article 4 will be implemented, so what criteria will be used, whether it will be the number of students or the number of HMOs in an area, and how these students will then be diverted to other areas has not been made clear to us.
So the local plan encourages students to live in purpose-built accommodation, but where this purpose-built accommodation will be and who will develop it remains to be seen.
Also, if these concerns are actually accounted for by the council and the plan is implemented successfully, we preempt there will be a number of problems that will arise.
Currently, next academic year, students will be paying £9,000 for tuition fees, and that means they'll have less disposable income to spend on things like travel if they live further away. Currently, in the private rented sector, on average for a house, it's £75 per person per week. But in purpose-built accommodation, it's £110, which is a huge difference.
Our own research has shown us that the demand will still very much be there, and that it's only the number of bed spaces that will actually decrease in these areas. This all comes at a time when the single living allowance age is rising from 25 to 35, so the demand for HMOs and this type of accommodation will actually increase.
It will also give credit to the myth that the best houses go early, and students will start panicking and signing contracts too early, undoing all the good work that Unipol do accrediting good landlords.
We've been talking to other interested parties about these issues.
NUS is really disappointed to hear that Nottingham City Council is going to be implementing the Article 4 direction. Article 4 direction is essentially discrimination. Students aren't a protected characteristic in equality legislation, but they're still a group nonetheless in society, and I don't think that the general public would think that it would be acceptable, for example, if you were to implement such a kind of policy for migrant workers or for black people or for the elderly, so I don't see why it's appropriate for students.
The impact for landlords in areas like Lenton and Arboretum is that they're only likely to buy properties that have been previously let to students. It makes it very hard for residents to sell their properties. Generally speaking, in areas like Lenton, you don't get families moving in. The usual process is as and when they want to leave, they sell to landlords, sell to investors. So it makes it the people that are penalised most by this proposal are actually the residents, and they're the people that the planning policy is supposed to protect.
In many places where Article 4 direction has been implemented, the proposed new sites for students to move into are largely purpose-built accommodation blocks. So the assertion that this is somehow creating balanced communities is false, because essentially what they're doing is segregating students from local residents and saying that they shouldn't be part of a local community, which is deeply unfair.
I think just by stopping a type of person moving into an area doesn't encourage other people to want to go and live there.
Students won't forget about these issues very quickly, and so it's really important for councillors to remember how powerful the student vote actually is.
We have a number of problems with how the council plans to respond to student issues. Firstly, the diversity of our student body hasn't been taken into account, rather it's been based on a stereotyping of what students are. Secondly, the council hasn't been transparent or informative enough with us about what's going on.
We want our executive councillors to vote no to Article 4 and to work with us so together we can tackle issues in the local community. Our students believe that they have the right to choose where and what type of accommodation they want to live in.
Students want to be part of the solution and not the perceived problem. We want to work together with all community stakeholders rather than these unilateral proposals which we think will only endanger relations.